Continuing my cycling journey from Alaska to Argentina, this video follows me from San Francisco to the border between the US and Mexico. I stopped in San Francisco for a few days to rest. I got my rim replaced and I had a few people come to see me during my stop there, including my brother James, our friend Doug, and a number of James's acquaintances. We explored the city and drank way too many strong margaritas. Morning. James decided to join me on the ride to Sacramento, so he hired a bike and we set off. The route was pretty flat, and I tried to take us on cycle routes and quiet roads, but that wasn't always possible, so we had to deal with the chaotic traffic of this country. James used to live near Sacramento, so he knew the area and had friends there. We stayed with Kevin, who runs a winery, so we got to taste some nice and interesting wines, and I was put to work punching the grapes in payment.
Now that I've stirred it all up for you, it's a lot easier.
Well, I'll move to another one. All right.
To be fair, I've had...
This one's a lot less stiffer than the other one.
Okay, are we still talking about punch downs?
We're unsure.
So I'm back in bike touring mode. After cycling to Sacramento with my brother, I spent a few days there. We met up with some of his friends, one of whom owns a winery, so there was plenty of wine flowing and I got to taste some really interesting wines. So yeah, shout out to you, Kevin, at Lucid Winery. And yeah, now I am on my way to Lake Tahoe. I've been riding on the Jedediah Smith Memorial Trail, which has been really nice riding. But now I am going towards the mountains and I feel like it's about to start kicking up on the elevation gain. So yeah, got that to look forward to. Today's going to be a big day because I'm going to try to get as far out of the city as I can to a place where I can set up my tent safely. So I'm just coming up to Carson Pass and I'll descend the other side from there to Lake Tahoe. It's getting really chilly here, threatening to snow quite a bit. There's been a bit of snow coming down, but not much, just like little sprinkling. So I guess I really need to get up and over the hill. But yeah, these hills are knackering. I climbed 1,000 meters in 30 kilometers yesterday. It was insane, up the Mormon Immigrant Trail. Anyway, let's get this climb out of the way. fair bit in the evening, but then it stopped and looks like a lot of the snow melted. But it's currently about -2 degrees Celsius. And it's bloody cold. The sun's come up, but it's still just behind the trees. So, I'm gonna make myself something warm to eat for breakfast, and then hopefully by that time the sun will have come up and warmed things up a bit, so then I can pack up and get changed for the cycling today. I don't understand how the first time I've experienced snow on this trip, and minus below freezing temperatures, I don't know how I experienced that for the first time in California of all places. It's crazy. Maybe I just underestimated the mountains. Anyway, let's get to it. So it seems my chain is frozen solid. Like a bit of moisture or liquid must have got on it around here. But yeah, something to bear in mind for the future. I reckon it's not going to be a problem today. Things are already starting to melt. Can't believe that though. Oh, well, that was a mistake. Lovely. This descent is absolutely insane. According to my Garmin, it was -1 degrees Celsius at the top, and I don't know, something about the cold, fresh air, breathing it in and feeling it, sort of the coldness on my face, just reminds me of, you know, my winter rides back home in Wales. But obviously the scenery is quite different here. So I'm in Nevada at the moment. I'm only going to be here briefly for, I don't know, 2 or 3 days as I pass through and get south. But yeah, I didn't really plan on coming into this state, but it just sort of happened with the route. Maybe I guess I just didn't notice that I crossed the state line into Nevada, but here I am. Obviously I'm the other side of this mountain range, so the landscape looks totally different right now, and it's going to be because of that. But yeah, it's interesting to see all of the different plant life and stuff like that. I haven't seen any animals yet, but I'm sure there will be some things that I haven't seen yet. So I just got to keep an eye out. So I'm having a bit of a challenging time. It's supposed to go down to -7 degrees Celsius tonight, and I figured I'll cook myself a nice warm meal before I go to bed, and that'll be good. And then in the morning I'll have something hot for breakfast. So I've set everything up ready for me to cook, and then I find out that my lighter has run out of fluid, so I can't create a flame for me to ignite my my fuel. And I'm using petrol or gasoline, so it won't ignite on a spark. And that's all I've got. I've got this spark and nothing more. So I've tried to make a little bit of tinder so that I could try to ignite that from a spark, but I'm not having any luck. I don't know if it's too cold or if the wood that I've found isn't appropriate. I don't know. But it looks like I might be having a cold dinner tonight. I've got some tortillas and peanut butter and stuff like that. So I won't starve, but it's going to be a difficult night considering. So we'll see. So I went down to -8 degrees Celsius last night. It's actually still 8 degrees. I'm in the shadow of a mountain, so it's probably going to stay this low until the sun comes past that. So I think I'm going to have to get up regardless of the temperature. Oh, but it's really cold. I tried to take a video with my GoPro last night of star trails. And I need to have that running for a couple of hours for enough of the rotation of the Earth to happen for the star trails to show. But because it was so cold, the battery died pretty quickly. So, yeah, last night was by far the coldest night of the trip. I'd say I slept pretty well considering that I didn't have a nice warm meal. I bet my water's frozen on the bike. And yeah. But the only thing is my feet are pretty cold. So I think I'm going to have to figure out a way to keep my feet warm in the night when it's cold. So I don't know what that'll entail. More socks maybe, or I could try having some feet warmers put down there or something like that. But I don't think it's going to be this cold again for a while. So the sun's finally out. And you can see these have absolutely frozen solid. Lovely. They'll melt though. So I was planning on camping at Lee Vinnings, or lower Lee Vinnings campsite, but today is the day it closed, so I'm a bit out of luck. I got there at about 2:30, and I could have snuck in and set up my tent and maybe got away with it. But then I thought, it's 2:30, I can maybe just see how far I get. Because if I can get to Yosemite Valley, Antoine and Olga are there and they've got a campsite, so I'll be able to pitch my tent next to theirs. It's a big climb up to Tioga Pass. I've got to do just under 1,000 meters of elevation gain in 20 kilometers. So that'll probably, I don't know, I might summit at about the same time sunset's happening. At which point most of it's downhill from there, so, well, at least I hope anyway. So we'll see. I mean, I don't know, maybe I'll give up, but I think certainly I'll be doing some night riding, right, like tonight. So let's see how we get on. But the views are amazing. I'm so glad I've got the light to see this. So I got in quite late last night and set up my tent right next to Antoine and Olga, who you might recognize from one of the earlier videos. And we're currently at Yosemite, going on a lovely little hike, looking at waterfalls and South Dome. Antoine, Olga and I cycled together to Oakhurst, where we stayed at Sam's place from warm showers. We rented a car together to do a road trip off the bikes. We spent a couple of days exploring Sequoia National Park, having a good time sharing music, joking around, and enjoying the amazing scenery.
Entendez-vous dans les campagnes mugir ces féroces soldats? Ils viennent jusque dans nos bras, égorger nos femmes et nos enfants. Aux armes, citoyens, formez vos bataillons. Marchons, marchons, qu'un sang impur abreuve nos sillons. Non, 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 non.
So we're approaching Death Valley now, and there were floods earlier this year in August that damaged a lot of the roads, and the park has been closed, I think, for the longest it's ever been, or at least the longest it's been closed for a good few years. And only 2 weeks ago they started opening up the roads. On the internet, a lot of the roads are closed still, and we have an ideal route through the valley, but online it's saying that the roads that we want to take are closed. But it's a situation that's evolving constantly because they're doing construction work. You know, even leading up to this, even leading up to the national park, we're going through a construction site right now, and I can see I'm riding right on a section that's been newly paved. So they're opening things as and when they're ready. So yeah, it's an evolving situation, and we'll see how it goes. We met someone yesterday who said that the road past Badwater Basin is open, so hopefully that's the case, and we can do our preferred route. So Antoine, Olga and I are heading down south into Death Valley, and we've stocked up on water. I think Antoine's got about 11 litres, Olga's got 7, and I have about 13 and a half. So between us we should be fine for the 2 or 3 days that we expect to be away from services. But yeah, it's going to be pretty cool. And we're going into a bit of an isolated section, so yeah. Hopefully it'll be awesome and no big problems. So now we're officially out of the park, or at least I am. Olga and Antoine are going to be here in a minute now. And the last day and a half riding through this closed road has been pretty phenomenal. We've had the road to ourselves and the condition of the road has been fantastic. So I have no idea why it's been closed. We were told that construction works were going on the road. We saw a few pieces of construction plant, but obviously it was the weekend, so they weren't being used. But the road was all clear, a little bit of gravel here and there, but nothing to write home about. But as a result, we had the road to ourselves, and it was just stunning. The landscape was very rugged, a lot greener than I was expecting, and yeah, just silent. You know, if we stopped riding and just listened, there's just nothing apart from my tinnitus, I guess, but you can't win them all. But yeah, so now we've just got to crack on towards Las Vegas. I've just got phone signal, so a load of messages have come in, so fantastic. I get to see what I missed, but it's been quite nice being away from everything and really getting immersed in the valley. Naughty, naughty.
We are legal now.
I've abandoned the detour to Vegas because the hotel costs have gone up quite a bit since we last looked. So that means I'm splitting up with Antoine and Olga. I left them this morning, and I'm heading straight for Baker, but the Baker Road's closed. However, I'm trying to take it anyway because the detour around is, I don't know, 2.5 times the distance. So hopefully I can get through. But I guess I'll just have to see. If not, then I'll be a bit screwed. This morning at the petrol station, I met a guy called Keith. He's a musician traveling around the US with his dog, and he kindly gave me some food because at the gas station there's not a lot of food there. It's just snacks mainly. So I got what I could, but he gave me some bananas, apples, raisins. It's very generous of him. I've got 90 kilometers to do today. However, there's supposed to be a strong headwind later. At the moment it's not too bad, but I gotta make the most of this. Try to get most of the way before midday. So I wasn't allowed through. The road was apparently completely destroyed by a hurricane last year, so they're still doing work to it. I'm sure that I could have taken my bags off and walked my bike across and all of that, but the guy wouldn't let me. I could camp around here and then try this evening after they leave. But it's 9 o'clock in the morning. Well, yeah, it's just gone 9 o'clock in the morning. So I'll have to wait all day for it. And I don't know if I have food for that. Although, to be fair, I don't really have enough food to go around either. I'll have to have a think. But yeah, the detour is at least 150 kilometers. And I'm trying to go back now to where I had signal so that I can scope out the roads and see if they're rideable, because I think there's a lot of unpaved roads around here. And if the roads that I've scouted out briefly on the map that I've got, on the offline map, if they are unrideable, then that means it's probably going to be 200 kilometers in the detour. So it's really frustrating because I only had like 50k to Baker from here. Oh well. At least I have some snacks though. The detour was to be 220 extra kilometers in the end. I contacted Antoine and Olga about the situation, and they'd taken their own detour to buy some supplies in a town called Parump, so they were able to buy some extra food for me. All I had to do was find my way to the Highway 160 and try to find them, so I had to race to catch them up. By the time I caught up with them, I'd ridden 140 kilometers and I was knackered. But I was treated to an incredible sunset. I didn't know at the time, but this would be the last time I saw Antoine and Olga until 8 months later in Ecuador. I told you I'd see you guys again. Yeah. Over the following couple of days, I made my way through the detour to Baker, where I could finally get a substantial stock up of supplies. Baker has the world's biggest thermometer, apparently. They love claiming to have the biggest things in the world around these parts. In the next couple of weeks, I made my way through the Mojave Desert, a small section of the Route 66, and Joshua Tree National Park, where the vast arid landscapes had a strangely comforting sense of solitude. I cooked dinner under spectacular crimson sunsets and investigated the strange structures of the Joshua trees. Probably look an absolute state right now. Today I'm going to be arriving to Mexico, and that'll be the end of this USA portion of the trip. I'm really looking forward to getting to Latin America. This is where I camped last night, and it's just outside Slab City. I got in to this area sort of just before sunset, so I didn't get a chance to explore. So before I set off to Mexico, I'm gonna go into Slab City, have a bit of a mooch around and see what's going on before I ride the about 50 miles to Mexico. And just in the distance there is Salvation Mountain, so that'll be my first stop.